Hey there, welcome to another edition of Wildlife Wednesday. Let's go take a look around. This is going to be a bit of a follow-up to a video we posted back in April titled Seeds and Soils, where we had Dr. Jarvis and Professor French come out and talk to us about soils. And so the video today is about seeds. What exactly is a seed? Well, a seed is really just a structure that encloses the embryo of a plant in a protective outer covering. Under favorable conditions of growth, a seed gives rise to a new plant. Wow. Seed diversity is nuts. In fact, many seeds vary greatly in size and shape. However, all seeds function to protect the young sporophyte, which is the plant embryo, during dispersal through unfavorable conditions in a dormant stage and providing food and nutrients to the embryo until it can obtain food of its own. Now, though there is a lot of diversity in seeds, the vast majority of them are going to consist of three main parts. And that's going to be the seed coat, the endosperm, and the embryo. And right now I'm just drawing a little bit of a corn kernel, kind of give you an idea. And so we'll have the seed coat, the endosperm, and the embryo. The seed coat is really just the protective outer layer of the seed, and it is formed by the outer covering of the ovule called the integument. Now, a seed coat is typically going to consist of two layers, a thick outer layer and a more delicate inner layer. Underneath that seed coat is the endosperm, and the endosperm is just a layer of tissue that is rich in oil, starch, and protein, and functions to store food reserves that provide nourishment to the developing plant. Next, we have the embryo, which would be somewhere in there, and the embryo is really just the young plant developing inside the seed coat, and the embryo contains all the underdeveloped tissues of the leaves, stem, and roots of the plant. To give you folks a better idea of what a plant embryo is like, I have rendered another crude image of what is a bean seed this time. And I'll just show you, there's going to be four main parts to the seed embryo, and that is first the epicotyl, which is going to be the main shoot system of the plant. Then we have the hypocotyl, which is kind of the transition part in the seed from the roots to the stem and leaves. The radicle is the baby root down there. And then the cotyledons, which are the developing seed leaves. Now, when we talk about seeds, we got to talk about fruit. And a fruit is really just an adaptation of seeds in a group of plants called angiosperms, which are in fact the most diverse group of plants on the planet. Now, another type of seed comes from a group of plants called gymnosperms. And gymnosperms, that means naked seed. Instead of the seeds being inside of a fruit or enclosed in a fruit, they are exposed on the scales of this pine cone here. And these seeds depend primarily on wind for their dispersal. Now back to the fruit here. A fruit is really just a matured ovary, and it functions to effectively disperse the seed or seeds contained within it. An important reason for the success of angiosperms has to do with diversity in fruit type and the multitude of strategies they possess for their dispersal. Aha! So technically what I have here is the fruit of a maple tree. And this one is a little worse for wear because the maple trees went to seed a few weeks ago, but as you can see, it is a helicopter seed, a dry fruit. The other type of fruit being a fleshy fruit, which is kind of like the tomato you saw me eating earlier. But when seeds drop, they gotta go somewhere, right? Otherwise, they'd be competing with their parent plant for things like sunlight, space, nutrients, and water. Dispersal of seeds is very important for the survival of plant species. If plants grow too closely together, they have to compete for light, water, and nutrients from the soil. Seed dispersal allows plants to spread out from a wide area and avoid competing with one another for the same resources. There are all kinds of ways that plants take advantage of their environment to successfully scatter their seeds far away from the parent plant. For example, much like this helicopter fruit that we have here, or its gymnosperm cousin, some plants utilize wind to disperse their seeds. Now, there are plenty of other seeds that get dispersed by wind. You're probably thinking of things like dandelion or milkweed and other types of trees like basswood or ash. But there are a few other ways that seeds get dispersed in nature. And one of them that we have here is pretty cool, burdock. And as you can see here, the seeds have, and we'll get a close-up here. And so these little hooks on the seeds will hook onto animals, like perhaps this cat over here, and or other animals with fur, or even your shoes and clothes, and disperse themselves by hanging on to the host, the animal or the human or whatever it is, and finding a new location to drop off and eventually create a new plant. Now, occasionally we do have water that comes down through the trail here and down into the valley, and there are quite a few seeds that get transported by water as well. That's another big one. And we don't have a lot of them here. Lily seeds, water plants you might be thinking of, but also things such as coconuts or arum or pearlwort, which actually will disperse its seeds when raindrops hit the leaves and splash and the seeds go flying off. All right, so we talked about how some seeds are dispersed by wind, some by water. Some seeds use hooks or burrs to attach themselves to animals or humans to be dispersed, but animals and humans play an important role in dispersing seeds in another way, and that is by eating the seed, digesting it, and then pooping it out somewhere else. And what I have here is an acorn seed, and an oak tree will drop hundreds of these in a season. However, less than 1 in 100 actually becomes a tree. And the reason for that is because in the forest world, these are a valuable source of nutrients. There is a number of animals, because they are rich in protein, carbohydrates, they're soft, easy to chew. There's a lot of animals that will go after these acorns for a food source. And that begins with critters as small as moths, which will lay their eggs on the acorn. The larvae will hatch, they'll burrow inside the acorn. Weevils do this as well, but they lay their eggs directly inside the acorn, and then their larvae eat it from the inside out. Squirrels, mice, deer, even bears that eat acorns off the forest floor. And some of those animals are a little more picky than others. Squirrels generally will discard any nut or acorn that they find with larvae inside of it. However, things like bear and deer, they're a lot less picky and will just eat the acorn, larvae and all. Once they reach the soil too, there are a number of organisms. The seed will break down it, and earthworms, centipedes prevent it from becoming a new oak tree. And so that is why a lot of trees drop hundreds of these seeds in a season. It's because generally hardly any of them actually make it and turn into another oak tree. Now, humans have been dispersing seeds for thousands of years, and I'm not talking about acorns, but I'm talking about things like corn, wheat, beans, strawberries, and plants that we have turned and used as food sources and crops for thousands of years now. Now, there is one other really cool way that seeds get dispersed that I was going to tell you guys about, but instead of me telling you, I'm going to have one of our friends from Bethel Horizons come and show you what I'm talking about. Here he is.
Hi, I'm Philip Bramley at Bethel Horizons, and I want to talk to you about jewelweed, sometimes called touch-me-not. Let's take a closer look. Jewelweed and touch-me-not grows in cool, shady areas, like this area here. This plant is called jewelweed and sometimes called touch-me-not. You can tell it's jewelweed by the horn-shaped flowers. And then it's called a touch-me-not because of the way it spreads seeds. It's through expulsion. It doesn't take much, but if you just touch these seeds, they pop out and go all over the place. It also has a celery-like stalk. In this stalk, if you crush it, the juice is antidote for poison ivy and stinging nettles.
Hey, thanks again for joining us for another Wildlife Wednesday. Tune in next week to see what we'll be learning about then, because boy gee wilker, learning sure is cool. And don't you forget it.